It's Paul Joseph Watson with Infowars.com, and it's becoming clearer what this whole London 2012 Olympics conspiracy, this meme that's circulating that there's going to be a massive cataclysmic event at London 2012, is all about. Now, you'll remember from yesterday's video, I was invited to appear in the upcoming BBC documentary. That's right, the BBC is making yet another documentary about conspiracy theories, and this time about the London 2012 Olympics. And they're trying to rush it out within the next 3 weeks because the games, of course, start at the end of July. Now, what I've discovered leads me to suspect very strongly that this is another Y2K scaremongering scam. You remember the Y2K hysteria back at the turn of the millennium. You know, we were told because of the changeover that planes would fall out of the sky, that computers would go into meltdown at nuclear power stations, and the media pushed these conspiracy theories for months and even years beforehand. Of course, when nothing whatsoever happened, all those people who pushed those theories were made to look stupid and had egg on their face. So I'm beginning to see a familiar pattern here with London 2012 and this obsession with a major event happening, which is why the BBC is so interested in making a documentary about it, when every one of their previous documentaries has been about discrediting the truth movement through illustrating these wild conspiracy theories and then affiliating them with real issues. And this is not to downplay the fact that Lee Hazeldean, the whistleblower who appeared on the Alex Jones show earlier this week, just astounding revelations about how he infiltrated the G4S security team at the Olympics, found the security procedures to be not only completely lacking, but in fact deliberately botched, leading the games wide open to a terrorist attack. Of course, he talked about plans, serious in-depth plans for the evacuation of London. He talked about 100,000 troops, including UN foreign troops, on standby right there at Woolwich, right outside the venues. And he talked about 200,000 casket linings to hold dead bodies. And this is a serious, credible guy. This is an undercover reporter. He's going to make his identity known soon. But he's infiltrated, and that's what he says is going on. So we featured those revelations earlier in the week. And it's also not to downplay the very real and downright creepy psychological preconditioning about a disaster or a major event unfolding at London 2012, because we've seen dramas, we've seen faux documentaries put out by the BBC, and we've seen commercials about a disaster happening in London during the Olympics Games. We've been bombarded with them. We've also seen the document put out by the Rockefeller Foundation, which talks about a hypothetical future scenario in which 13,000 people are killed at the Olympic Games. So these are all serious issues, and there's no doubt that the Olympics itself is a huge occult ritual, as many have exposed. And you know, it always has been. It's about manipulating energy to create certain events and to brainwash people into all jumping on board the bandwagon, just as they did with the Queen's Diamond Jubilee recently. But I see this as another chapter in delegitimizing real issues like 7/7 or 9/11, which the producers of this show admit are going to be in the program, by affiliating them with the notoriously disinfo-ridden and often publicly toxic issue of UFOs and aliens, because that's what I've discovered today. I've actually received the breakdown of how they plan on filming this BBC documentary, and it's essentially, as they say in their own words, quote, a Louis Theroux style journey into the world of conspiracy talk shows. Now, anyone who's watched Louis Theroux, which, you know, it's all very entertaining, I like it, but they'll know that his style and the whole purpose of his documentaries is about turning the subject into a figure of ridicule. It's about making them look crazy and outlandish, at least, you know, 9 out of 10 times in those Louis Theroux documentaries. So the guy who's making the program admits it's going to be in that style. And then, of course, I've got the whole breakdown sent to me, which shows that they clearly intend to focus this documentary and this whole meme that there's going to be a major event at the Olympics, then linking it to the truth movement, around the contention that aliens are going to fly down in a spaceship and land during either the opening or closing Olympic ceremony. That's not me making that up. That's in the actual breakdown. and we can go on to read it. I mean, I've got the introduction. It says, title, The Olympic Conspiracy. Black screen, Olympic rings in background. Voiceover, Chris. Quote, it is supposed to be a time of celebration in the streets of Britain, but some people have other ideas. And then it goes on to say, quote, there is growing discontent with a large group of the public. Some of these people now hold views that are quite frankly out of this world. And then the intro cuts to a clip of somebody at a protest saying, quote, aliens will be at the Olympics. That's how the BBC opens their supposedly non-biased, fair, balanced documentary about Olympics conspiracy theories, while linking it all to ET, aliens and UFOs. Not only that, they're also going to use the familiar technique of deploying a psychologist to imply that anybody who has alternative beliefs about modern day events is clinically insane. Now, you'll remember that there was a guy called Rick Clay who a couple of years ago put out a lot of information about the symbolism connected to the Olympic Games. And as I've said, that's all very interesting, and I'm not denigrating it. But the unfortunate thing about that is Rick Clay committed suicide through, from what I understand from the Guardian article, which is what this BBC documentary is going to be based on largely, were depression and mental problems, and he unfortunately killed himself. They're going to have a psychologist in the actual show talking about, with scans of brains behind him or her as they talk, basically saying these conspiracy theories are Looney Tunes. Anybody who believes them is probably psychologically insane. And I dare to venture, because they're using this Guardian article, they might even cite the case of Rick Clay, who exposed the symbolism and then sadly committed suicide because he had depression and mental problems. So they're going to imply that. They're going to imply that anybody who talks about this has depression or mental problems. And they're also going to throw in the whole alien meme. That's what it's all about. It's going to be another Y2K scaremongering hysteria thing. And then at the end of it, when the aliens don't land, when nothing happens, the truth movement is going to be left with the bill. We're going to look stupid out of it. So obviously, they invited me to be in this. I shared that with you the other day. But what's weird about it is they told me other people would be in it who have actually already publicly stated they've got no interest in being in it. So that's very weird that they'd lie to me about that. And just to clear one other thing up, somebody who is or was involved in this publicly said the BBC were getting, quote, desperate in inviting me to appear in this documentary. Like, they were so worried about getting it to air within the short time frame they have that, you know, they had to scrape the barrel by getting desperate, getting me on. Well, I'm afraid that's not strictly correct. I've been invited to appear in every single one of these BBC conspiracy documentaries over the last few years. They wanted me in the 9/11 road trip. They wanted me in the 7/7 road trip. I've got the emails, the shows before that, they approached me. So it's not desperation that they're turning to little old me because nobody else wants to do it. They ask me every time. Every time they make one of these documentaries, they want me to be in it. And I'm not just being arrogant about it. I mean, it's obvious why they want me in it. Because InfoWars is the biggest alternative media platform in existence. You know, my articles are on the Drudge Report. These videos get tens of thousands of views thanks to the great people who spread them all over the social media. And that's why the BBC always wants me or Alex Jones on. They're constantly trying to get Alex Jones involved in these programs. But I'm not really interested in being part of their freak show. That's why I've never been on. I could have been on several times already, but to me it's just a total waste of time. Because they just use it to discredit us, and many people have shared that same sentiment. So, you know, no disrespect to anyone out there, and the concerns raised by Lee Hazeldean are very serious and need to be investigated. That's a separate issue. But this whole alien UFO thing and making it all about that, it just smacks of Y2K again. It's just becoming more and more clear to me. I don't doubt that there might be an event, attempt at a false flag at the Olympics. Certainly the security is completely being botched, and a lot of evidence points towards that. But aliens landing, I mean, come on. You know, I've read about Project Bluebeam, I've researched Iron Mountain. It was in my book. You know, I was writing articles about it 10 years ago. But to claim that aliens are going to land in a spaceship in London next month is frankly just a bit ludicrous. And it's asking for trouble if you go on the BBC on a documentary and say that. So you've got to ask yourself, why is the BBC basing their whole documentary around this premise that aliens are going to land at the Olympics? Is it going to come back on us, do you think, when E.T. doesn't land? I venture to say yes. So in my estimation, and I've been looking at this for weeks, it's basically going to be a Y2K strawman hit piece. Just like every other BBC conspiracy documentary before it, it's going to be about discrediting truth seekers. So no, E.T.'s not going to pay a visit to London next month. So going on national television and making that prediction, which apparently is what the BBC wants people to do, that's who they're talking to. I've read the breakdown of the production notes. That's only going to allow the wider establishment to make the truth movement look stupid. So that's my thoughts on it from everything I've read, from reading the whole production breakdown, from listening to what other people involved in it have told me. This is Y2K hysteria. There's going to be a massive event at the Olympics, at least in the context of aliens. I don't doubt that there could be some kind of false flag, because as Hazeldine has exposed, everything looks like it's being geared up towards that. But aliens landing at London 2012 Olympics, it's not a great, I'm not sticking my neck out by making this bet, but it's not going to happen. And going on national TV on the BBC and claiming that is only going to hurt the truth movement in the long run. I'm Paul Joseph Watson, Infowars.com.